Minister of State, Huang.
Madam Deputy Speaker, women hold many important roles in our society. We are colleagues at the workplace, also mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters to our families. Therefore, as we debate in this House about how we can better support women, we are indeed debating about how we can create a better future, not for Singapore women alone, but for Singaporeans. We have made good progress in empowering women in Singapore, and we should be proud of that. Today, women make up almost half of the labour force, literally holding up half the sky. The employment rate for women aged 25 to 64 has continually grown over the past 2 decades and remarkably continued to increase even during the pandemic, from 73.2% in 2020 to 75.1% in 2021, beating the odds. Now, many more women are entering and excelling in what are traditionally regarded as male-dominated sectors, such as STEM, construction, professional services, and becoming leaders in their chosen fields, many of whom are in the chambers today. We will continue to encourage and support women in pursuing their career ambitions while respecting women's choices on the sectors that they wish to contribute to. Given our manpower constraints, it is crucial that we enable both women and men to be part of our workforce as much as possible. I share the story of a dear colleague of mine. She lives with a retired husband and mother-in-law who has dementia and is bedridden. Although they have a helper, her husband started to face burnout a few years ago. And in her previous job, she felt extremely helpless as she was working long hours and was unable to work from home. She contemplated early retirement to better care for her family. Thankfully, after changing jobs, things improved, for as she's now able to work from home regularly and is given time off to run errands when needed. She appreciates the workplace flexibility that allows her to continue working and be financially independent. With a more balanced share of caregiving load in family, everyone enjoys better physical and mental well-being. Experiences like this show how important flexible work arrangements can be. With workplace flexibilities, women who are caregivers will be better empowered with the choice to continue working and progressing in their careers, thereby reducing career lags for women and helps to close gender pay gap. Flexible work arrangements apply not just to men, but also to women. With greater workplace flexibility, coupled with a supportive workplace culture that recognizes both men and women have a role to play in caregiving, more of us will be able to manage work and family demands. This is why we must press on with efforts to sustain workplace flexibilities. In 2020, close to 9 in 10 employees worked in companies that provided at least one flexible work arrangement on a sustained basis, up from more than 6 in 10 in 2015. As safe management measures gradually ease, we may be tempted to revert to pre-pandemic ways of working. However, if we do so, we will lose the many benefits that flexible work arrangements bring to employers and employees. The White Paper has laid out our plans to strengthen and sustain flexible work arrangements at the workplace. We will introduce a new set of tripartite guidelines on flexible work arrangements by 2024. The tripartite guidelines will prescribe fair and proper practices that employers should adopt, such as having a proper process to assess employees' requests for flexible work arrangements and communicate the outcome of such requests. This will establish the norm that it is acceptable to request for flexible work arrangements while maintaining employers' prerogative to approve or reject the request based on their business and operational needs. To Ms. Jessica Tan, Mr. Shara Taha, and Mr. Melvin Yong's suggestion to implement the tripartite guidelines on flexible work arrangements earlier, it's important that that we take a calibrated and enabling approach to enhance access to flexible work arrangements. We need to equip employers with capabilities to manage a more flexible workplace, not just remote work, but also flexi time and flexi workload. And also ensure that employees also understand the roles that they play in making flexible work arrangements sustainable for business operations. We should build confidence and capacity instead of seeking to use legislation for every workplace issue that arises. Otherwise, workplace disputes will arise, and the mutual trust and understanding between employers and employees, which we have carefully maintained over the years, will be eroded. Over 10,000 companies have already adopted the tripartite standard on flexible work arrangements, covering more than 1 in 4 employees in Singapore today. We welcome more companies that are ready to come on board even before the tripartite guidelines are introduced in 2024. As an intermediate milestone, MOM and our tripartite partners aim to increase the adoption of this voluntary tripartite standard on flexible work arrangements by companies, covering 27% of employees today to 40% at the end of this year. The public service as a whole has adopted the tripartite standard on flexible work arrangement. The government also encourages and recognizes companies with progressive HR policies, including flexible work arrangements, enhanced leave schemes for caregiving and sabbaticals, employee leave schemes, many of which were raised by Ms. Polisan, Mr. Gan Tian Po, AP James Lim, Mr. Louis Chua. I think these are all positive steps, and we encourage companies to do so if they suit the employees' needs and suit their business operations. The Alliance for Action for Work-Life Harmony has been championing these forms of work-life support since last year. Ultimately, companies with progressive policies will be able to better attract and retain talent, which is good for business. From the conversation series on Singapore women's development, we also heard stories of how some women who chose to leave the workforce for a few years due to family reasons face difficulties returning to work. All employers ought to practice fair and merit-based hiring. If employers screen out applicants because of so-called resume gaps or last on salary, they risk losing out on good candidates. A better, smarter approach is to make a robust and fair assessment of each candidate. MOM will continue to partner the Institute for HR Professionals, IHRP, to uplift HR standards. We will help HR professionals develop capabilities that allow them to better tap on back-to-work women as a talent pool. For back-to-work women who are ready to return to workforce, they can tap on Workforce Singapore and NTUC E2I's career coaching and job matching services. They can also benefit from career conversion programs to reskill for new jobs. WSG will broaden its partnership with various organizations such as Moms at Work Singapore, Daughters of Tomorrow, and Mendaki to reach out to back-to-work women and support their journey to re-enter the workforce. I'm heartened that there are organizations out there such as NTUC Women and Family Unit, She Brilliance, Financial Women's Association, that have been active in providing mentorship and career guidance to mums who are trying to come back to work. I think we need more of such community support to help uplift women. Ms. Hertin Rue spoke about the gender wage gap. I agree with her. We need to do more to reduce gender wage gap. We need to take a multi-pronged practical approach towards this. Well, we've heard of some countries that have legislated equal pay for equal work, such as in some parts of US and Canada, but the adjusted pay gap remains higher than that in Singapore. I think in Singapore, we take a much more practical approach towards matters like this. And here, we're talking about strengthening workplace fairness, introducing and entrenching flexible work arrangements, working with industry partners, community partners, and using our education to encourage and empower women to take on jobs in growth as well as STEM sectors. After all, the main reason for the gender wage gap in Singapore is occupational segregation. Financial literacy is important for financial well-being. I agree with Mr. Louis Chua, and I thank him for raising this point. Some women, because they are caregivers, may have had disrupted careers, and as a result, were not able to earn as much as their partners. Well, aside from providing a supportive environment for caregivers to continue working, MOM has also taken steps to help caregivers build their retirement nest egg. First, we encourage cash top-ups to CPF accounts of caregivers through tax incentives and government matching grants for eligible seniors, many of whom have been women who benefited from these schemes. And second, they can consider monetizing their homes under the HDB lease buyback scheme and a silver housing bonus to unlock their housing value and enhance their retirement income. Third, we supplement the retirement income of seniors who had low incomes during their working years and now have less in retirement through the Silver Support Scheme. Lower wage caregivers who are working may also be eligible for the Workfare Income Supplement, which provides up to $4,000 in cash and CPF top-ups annually today. And from 2023 onwards, they can receive up to $4,200 in cash and CPF top-ups annually. For more women to succeed in their careers, we must also tackle discrimination and harassment at the workplace. Some participants in the conversations shared that women still face prejudice due to perceptions that they would be less committed at work due to caregiving and pregnancy reasons. When instances of discrimination or harassment were reported to their employers, some felt that their concerns were swept under the rug. Others hesitated to come forward because they were afraid to lose their jobs or getting marked by their colleagues. We can do better. All of us have a role to play. We want to send a strong message of assurance that help is available and that those who seek help and recourse can do so safely and will be protected against retaliation. We do not tolerate workplace discrimination in any form, certainly not against women, be it for their caregiving responsibilities or the pregnancy status. This is why MOM and our tripartite partners are taking a significant step to enshrine the tripartite guidelines on fair employment practices in law, strengthening equal opportunities in the workplace. Now, I must say this is really a long journey. Looking back, as far back as 2016 in the Parliament, Mr. Patrick Tay had already been pushing for anti-workplace discrimination legislation. And over the years, numerous times, various MPs in this House have raised this. So I'm really glad that finally, we are taking that big step towards legislation. The work of the Tripartite Committee on Workplace Fairness is ongoing, and the committee has agreed to look at protecting the confidentiality of the identity of those who report on discrimination or harassment at the workplace and protecting them against retaliation. The committee is looking also at the legislation to include requiring employers to have proper process to handle grievances reported by their employees. Like many of the shifts in the white paper, the eventual workplace fairness legislation will not just benefit women. In giving greater assurance for women at work, we are also giving greater assurance to all workers. However, we all know that legislation is not a panacea. We need mindset shifts and collective action for real and sustained impact. I thank Ms. Sylvia Lim for agreeing with us that education of employers is key. And as Ms. Yowan Ling highlighted, employers must educate and equip themselves, their supervisors and HR professionals, to create fair, respectful, and safe working environments. The Tripartite Alliance for Fair and Progressive Employment Practices, TAFEP, and the tripartite partners can help employers with this, with further support available for SMEs if they lack knowledge or capacity in implementing proper policies and grievance handling processes. I urge companies to take ownership and tap on such help. To individuals who encounter workplace harassment, TAFEP's Workplace Harassment Resource and Recourse Center is here to provide advice and assistance. We assure you that you are not alone and it is safe for you to reach out. Let us help and support you. Our community partners, such as grassroots leaders, union leaders, Daughters of Tomorrow, Mums at Work Singapore, SCWO, Aware, and more are among those working with us to augment outreach and support to those affected by workplace harassment. Together, we are enlarging the safety net to protect and support women. As colleagues or friends, each of us can make a difference too. Do not be bystanders. Instead, call out and stand up against unfair and unsafe workplace practices and support those who are affected. We should work towards a vision of zero workplace discrimination and harassment. Before I can conclude, let me highlight our key actions in Mandarin. 我们仔细聆听了国人的意见，在白皮书中设下了我们对于如何更好地支持新加坡女性投入职场的愿景和具体措施。我们将把公平雇佣指导原则纳入法律，加强和维护职场公平，让女性与男性双双享有平等的机会。我们也将完善现有的制度，确保安全的工作环境，让员工免受骚扰。雇主将需指定处理投诉的程序，保护举报职场歧视或骚扰行为的员工的身份，避免举报者遭到排挤与报复。我们估计在2024年推出灵活工作安排劳资政指导原则。在此之前，我们会继续鼓励雇主自动地采纳灵活工作安排劳资政标准，将涵盖的雇员比率提高到48%。我们要为男女工友在工作安排中提供所需的灵活性，让所有员工都能够在追逐事业的同时，也能追求个人的家庭和理想。The benefits of our efforts will well extend beyond the workplace, where our children can grow up in more supportive family environments with greater parental involvement, where there will be stronger relationships between parents who share responsibilities at home, and where women and men partner each other as equals, progress together, and pursue their aspirations freely and to the fullest. I'm heartened to hear this joint call and commitment to action being strongly echoed by MPs who have spoken thus far. So today, let us join hands as a society, regardless of our political affiliation, to commit to making our workplaces fairer and more inclusive for an even stronger Singapore tomorrow. Thank you.